This is the Big 8 Gridiron Report. And now your hosts, Drew Goodman and Dave Logan.
And welcome once again, everybody, to the Big 8 Gridiron Report. I'm Drew Goodman.
And I'm Dave Logan. Certainly the biggest week of the Big 8 season this Saturday, and it will be Nebraska and Colorado for what looks to be the Big 8 championship. I say what looks to be because there are a couple of games left in the season. But Nebraska and Colorado, the winner will go to the Orange Bowl. Nebraska ranked third in the country, Colorado number 9. And it's a series that the Cornhuskers have dominated over the years. They've won 34 times against only 13 losses, but the last 4 years, each team has won a couple of times. So certainly a competitive series in that time span.
Yeah, it certainly has been. Who can forget last year? 27-21 affair that Colorado wins in Boulder. Went down to the last play of the game. Yep. Godowski lost the ball in the end zone, nearly hauled in for a touchdown. Obviously it wasn't. Colorado wins the game, as we mentioned. 2 years ago in Lincoln, 7-0 affair. Nebraska wins it.
Very good series, and it should be a great football game. Speaking of Nebraska and Colorado, let's take a look at the Big 8 standings and those two teams on top. The Cornhuskers 8-0-0, as I said, number 3 in the country. Colorado 7-1-1, they are number 9. Oklahoma 2-2 in conference play, 5-3 overall. And the Iowa State Cyclones 1-2-1 in the Big 8. They are 3-4-1 overall.
The number 5 team, Kansas, knocked off the number 6 team, 27-24. The Kansas State Wildcats. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Oklahoma State and Missouri round out the Big 8 conference standings at this point. And whenever you think about Big 8 football, what do you think about, Dave?
Well, I think about a lot of things.
Well, what is the Big 8 synonymous with over the years?
Oh, the running game.
There you go,
yeah.
Running the football.
You have to lead me a little bit,
I have to prod you a little bit. In any event, let's check out the rushing offensive statistics team-wise for the Big 8 Conference this year. Nebraska not only leads the conference, they're number 1 in the nation, better than 387 yards per game. Then Oklahoma, they're 6th in the nation. Colorado 7th nationally. And then Oklahoma State 28th nationally and 4th in the Big 8 Conference.
Gerald Hudson, not a bad back.
He didn't have a bad week. He didn't have a bad several weeks this past Saturday.
Been pretty good. Well, we've got a good show planned for you, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. The last segment, of course, is when we do our predictions. We haven't been great this season, but we're going to try to
cancel that?
No, because I'm ahead. We're not canceling anything. But we're going to look closer at the Nebraska-Colorado game and give you our opinions as to what each team has to do in order to get a victory. Welcome back to the Big 8 Gridiron Report along with Drew Goodman. I'm Dave Logan. Time now for yet another trivia question, and this one is for Drew. In Kansas State football history, we want to know the only 2 players that eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark in one season. Go right ahead.
I'm amazed that they've only had 2 1,000-yard runners, but I guess if you think about it, they've always thrown the football. That's why they've only had 2,000-yard runners. You're not helping me out at all,
I'm waiting for your answer. I mean, I've asked the question.
Cornelius Davis.
For the answer.
Cornelius Davis.
How did you get Cornelius Davis?
I cheated. I looked earlier.
1966, you weren't even alive.
Close. No, I was alive.
All right, who's the other one? It's an hour show, Drew.
I have no idea. I can't remember. I did cheat, remember, and I forgot the other name.
Let me help you. Isaac Jackson, back in 1973. I played against him.
Must have played against him.
Good player, indeed. Isaac Jackson was not in Lawrence, Kansas this past Saturday, unfortunately for the Wildcats. Kansas and Kansas State have always had a great basketball tradition, but they're trying to get the football tradition revved up as well. The governor of the state of Kansas there after the game to congratulate the winner and losers, I suspect, and Kansas, with a terrific offensive performance, got the best of the Wildcats. We'll go back to Lawrence and show you what happened this past Saturday.
In Lawrence, Kansas, bragging rights were at stake as the Jayhawks played host to the Kansas State Wildcats. Things didn't go well for the visitors early as they drove deep into Hawk territory before Pat Jackson fumbled and Kansas recovered, dodging an early Wildcat bullet. The Jayhawks went right to work from their 7 as Chip Hillary dropped back and found Kenny Drayton for 16 yards to get some breathing room. Again, Hillary went up top, and this time he connected with Rob LaCursey for 30 yards to the Wildcat 14. From there, junior Tony Sands goes around the end for 5 yards and the touchdown, as Kansas jumps out to a 7-0 lead. Kansas got the ball back, and on 4th and 10, Dan Eicloff on the fake punt hits Drayton for 30 yards to the state 42-yard line, giving the offense a second chance. And that's all they needed as Sands scored for the second time. and the Jayhawks were rolling 14-0 early in the second quarter. Kansas State finally got their offense going. Carl Straw with the completion to Michael Smith for 20 yards down to the Kansas 5-yard line. The next play, Straw kept it himself for the 5-yard touchdown, and the Kansas lead was cut in half at 14-7. The Jayhawk defense was the story in the first half as the Wildcats found yardage tough to come by. In the third quarter, things didn't get any better for the Cats as Straw hooks up with Michael Smith. But Smith loses the ball in the end zone and Kansas recovers, again stopping the Wildcats. State got the ball back and drove deep into Kansas territory once again. But the defense for the Jayhawks stiffened and forced Tate Wright to kick a 19-yard field goal, bringing the Wildcats to within 7 at 17-10. But Kansas had an answer as Chip Hillary, who passed for a career-high 221 yards, connected with Rob LaCursey. The 32-yard play brought Kansas to the 15-yard line, and 6 plays later, George White scored from the 2, and the Hawks looked to be cruising with a 24-10 lead. Things only got worse for the Wildcat hopes, as again Hillary combined with LaCursey for another big gainer, all the way to the Cats' 42. From there, it was up to the leg of Dan Eichlau, who responded with a school record 58-yard field goal, bringing the score to 27-10. But the never-say-die Wildcats didn't quit. Pat Jackson from 1 yard out makes the score 27-17, with over 10 minutes still left in the game. On their next try, the Wildcats made the most of 2 costly Kansas penalties. The first one a personal foul, then a pass interference on 3rd and goal from the 11. And Straw made them pay as he takes it in on 3rd and goal, and this was now a ball game at 27-24 with more than 5 minutes remaining. The Wildcats had new life and wanted their offense to get one more shot. But on 3rd and 3, Hillary, who also led the Hawks with 102 yards on the ground, kept the ball and headed upfield for 40 yards, ending any Kansas State hopes for a comeback. Kansas holds on for a 27-24 win for the State of Kansas championship.
Kansas State fumbles twice inside the Kansas 10, otherwise it might be a different football game. You know, I have a question for you, Dave. You saw that Kansas came out in all blue uniforms, and from time to time you see in big football games coaches or maybe the players put pressure on the coaches to do this. They'll wear a different combination of jersey and pant. Does it really fire you up? I mean, if you wear a different combination? Does it?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd have been worried that they come out in all black or all red since their colors are blue and red. But yeah, when you change the emotion of the game, the players like it. It's something different. And for the interstate rivalry between Kansas and Kansas State, anything that you can do to gain that little emotional edge, you go ahead and do.
Evidently it worked. They won the football game 27-24, and then you put it away for another year, right?
Those pants got to go.
Got to go.
Actually, I thought the uniform looked pretty good myself.
It did. It was aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, and it looked good, too.
When we come back, I'll educate Dave in the interim. But when we come back, we'll take a look at the plays of the week and the hits of the week, or there might not be a hit of the week. But we'll take a look at all that good stuff when we return. And welcome back to the Big 8 Gridiron Report, along with Dave Logan. I'm Drew Goodman. Always a multitude of outstanding performances in the Big 8 Conference every week. This week, no different, right?
Right.
Okay. Let's start with the Big 8 Offensive Player of the Week. This week it goes to Oklahoma State running back Gerald Hudson. The tailback rushed for a career-high 255 yards on 34 carries as the Cowboys bested Missouri 48-28. He went over the 1,000-yard mark in the process. He also had 3 touchdowns. The native of Texas had a 68-yard run to set up yet another score. He also added a pass reception for 5 yards. The Offensive Player of the Week this week in the Big 8, Oklahoma State's Gerald Hudson.
And the defensive player of the week this week in the Big 8 Conference is Colorado defensive tackle Gary Howe. Howe had 13 tackles Saturday as the Buffaloes beat the Sooners 32-23. The Spencer, Iowa native had 6 unassisted tackles, including 2 for losses. The 6', 265-pound senior added a half a sack and a quarterback hurry, and Howe and his defensive teammates' efforts helped Colorado post back-to-back wins over the Sooners for the first time in some 25 years. The defensive player of the week in the Big 8 Conference is Colorado's Gary Howe.
Pretty good offensive and defensive players of the week, and our first play of the week involves another pretty good offensive player.
I would say this is a great run.
Yeah, it is a great run, great speed. Let's go to Ames, Iowa, Cyclone Stadium, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and the Iowa State Cyclones. Nebraska with the football, Mickey Joseph, a little option, Leotis Flowers, and folks, he's what you say, gone. Off to the races. 70 yards for Leotis Flowers and a touchdown. He rushed for over 200 yards in the ballgame, and that is our first play of the week. Leotis Flowers and the Cornhuskers.
Well, our second play of the week is certainly as spectacular as the first. It happened in Boulder Saturday as Oklahoma visited the Colorado Buffaloes. Take a look. This is a nice throw from Cale Gundy. Little pump fake there. Tosses to number 3, Ted Long. He gets the ball, and down the sideline he goes. 80 yards later, Oklahoma has the touchdown. That put them up at the time 14-6. They lost the game, but a fine pass from Cale Gundy to Ted Long, the play of the week, number 2.
That was that old pump and go for Cale Gundy.
Drew up the cornerback and just threw it over his head.
Let's stay in Boulder and Folsom Field. Another great play, another great pass play. 2 teams known as running football teams. In the fourth quarter, Colorado has just stopped Oklahoma on 4th and 1. The first play, they fool everybody. They go back to pass, and Hagan looks deep for Rico Smith. Smith hauls it in. He juggles it for a moment at the 45-yard line, and then he goes the rest of the way, 85 yards for the touchdown that really was the difference in the football game as Colorado went on to defeat the Oklahoma Sooners.
Well, the next play of the week is actually the call of the week. Bob Davis, our good friend in Kansas, who does all of the Kansas sporting events, both basketball and football. This is terrific. Take a look. It happened in the...
This is pretty funny.
Yeah, it really did. Dan Eichloff, the Kansas field goal kicker. This is a 58-yard field goal, a school record, but this is not the play of the week. It's the call of the week. Listen up.
Got the wind behind him, keep in mind. It would be 58 yards. It's down. The kick's on the way, and it is good! He got it! He got it! A 58-yard field goal!
Bob Davis in the Kansas Hall of Fame, as far as announcing goes, he's terrific. And was he just a little bit excited about that one?
You know, it's funny because it starts out, he sets it up just a normal kick, the placement, the kick, it's up, and then he goes nuts. It was great. 58 yards doesn't happen every day, and we thank Bob Davis for that call. And that was our 4th and final play of the week. When we come back, we'll quickly, very quickly, check the predictions because you'll find David ahead. And then in addition to our predictions, we'll also talk about the keys to the Nebraska-Colorado football game in all likelihood for the Big 8 championship and the right to go to Miami on January 1st. We'll come back after this. Once again to prognosticate, and Dave Logan is leading.
Yes, I am.
By the way, what we play for is dinner in Miami when we bring you our 90-minute special from the Orange Bowl, which we will again do this year, and it looks like I will be buying you dinner.
It does look that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, you can
it
hardly
really does
control
look that way. I'm starting to feel fairly secure about this.
Starting to salivate a little bit, aren't you?
All right, the schedule. Iowa State at Kansas State in Manhattan. What do you think?
By the way, you were, what, 4-0 again last week?
I didn't want to bring it up, but since you did, yes, I was.
I had Missouri knocking off Oklahoma State. Didn't happen. All right, Iowa State at Kansas State. I'll go first. I like the Cyclones in Manhattan.
I like Jim Walden's crew as well, so we'll agree on that game.
There he goes again as one of our presidents once.
Next game, Kansas at Oklahoma State.
I like Glenn Mason's team here.
Oh, you like Kansas. I'm going to take Oklahoma State. They've been playing well the last couple of weeks. Gerald Hudson running everywhere, and I think Oklahoma State and Stillwater is the team.
Why don't we skip Colorado and Nebraska because we will talk about them in a moment. Oklahoma traveling to Columbia, Missouri. Who do you like?
I can't believe Oklahoma would lose yet another Big 8 conference game. They haven't even played Nebraska yet. So I think Oklahoma, although Missouri has played well at times this year, I think Oklahoma has too many horses for them.
Yeah, Missouri's played very well at home, but can you imagine Oklahoma losing 4 football games in a row?
No.
We can't, and therefore I have to concur with David. I like the Sooners in Columbia over the Missouri Tigers. And the big one, of course, in Lincoln, Nebraska. Colorado and Nebraska, 2 top 10 football teams. Nebraska unblemished this year. Dave, we've both had the opportunity to see both of these teams play on several occasions this year. The thing that comes to the forefront of my mind is the fact that Nebraska is phenomenally fast on defense. I mean, they're down people run real well. Kenny Walker. I think Colorado's going to have trouble running outside the tackles. I think they're going to have to run it up inside.
Well, I think this. Nebraska has 3 keys, and Colorado does too, as we try to break this game down. Number 1 for Nebraska, not necessarily in order of importance, Mickey Joseph, their young quarterback, has to step up and do what he's done for most of this year. Run the offense, make sure he doesn't make any glaring mistakes, and play above his years, so to speak. He's a young guy, hasn't had much experience, but really has played well recently for Nebraska. They've got to eliminate mistakes, and by that I mean make Colorado work on a long field. Don't fumble the ball inside their own territory. Make that offense work against an outstanding defense that Nebraska has. And maybe number 3, not be too emotional, not get caught up, because I know Nebraska fans and Colorado fans are really looking forward to this game. And that's going to be a madhouse in Lincoln on Saturday. And sometimes as a home team, you can let that overtake you and you can make mistakes that you normally might not. Don't be too emotional. The Cornhuskers cannot afford to do that and beat Colorado.
Before you go to Colorado, Keith, let me ask you a quick question, because a lot of people in the media have been making this up to be a big deal. The fact that Colorado has played a pretty tough schedule this year, Nebraska perhaps hasn't played the quality teams Colorado has. I don't think that makes a huge difference. I mean, Nebraska's a great football team. No, Colorado's a very good football team.
Yeah, no question about it. I don't think we'll know until after the game whether it makes a difference or not. Nebraska is very tough to beat at home. That's an excellent program. For Colorado, conversely, one of their keys, they can't let the crowd affect them. That's when they get going back in Lincoln, they rock and roll. It's sometimes hard to run an offense, and Colorado's got a veteran team, but they can't let the crowd take them out of that. The kicking game for Colorado is vitally important, and it has not been up to snuff in recent weeks. The punting game especially has not been very good, and Colorado has led the nation in 3 of the last 4 years. And finally, they got to run the ball against the best defense in the country. If Colorado does not run for more than 200 yards, I don't think they can win.
Yeah, I think big football games usually come down to 3 or 4 or 5 plays. I think this one will be no different. And again, turnovers, the most important statistic. Who holds on to the football and who controls the motion best?
Before we leave, what do you think?
I like Nebraska because they're playing this one at home. I think it's a field goal either way, and unless there are a lot of turnovers, I don't expect there will be. I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring affair, a 17-14 type of ball game.
All right, I am biased. Yes, I am. I will take Colorado, and you fans in Nebraska have to understand that. But I think Colorado wins the game in a very tight football game. That should do it.
Okay, there you go.
For Goodman, I'm Dave Logan. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week on the Big 8 Gridiron Report.